encouraged by Lou to put our heads together and kick things off here. Lou, who you will meet shortly, is really the de facto founder of Crypto Mondays. And I'll leave Oleg to make that introduction. We would normally be meeting at Consensus in the city, but right now this has been working. Last month's meeting went exceptionally well. We had a very good speaker, and we're looking forward to hearing from Lou tonight and what insights he can share with us about this very peculiar world we live in. Oleg?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. I see actually participant numbers are now jumping up. So as expected, people are coming a few minutes late. Do we have Morgan, our sponsor from Vantage Partners? Do we have Morgan on the call? Do you want to say a few words?
We have Alexander.
Oh, Alexander. Hi, Alex. Do you want to say a few
Hi, guys. Can you see me
Vantage?
all right?
Yep.
Hi. Yeah, sorry. I was expecting Morgan to be on the call as well. So I'm not too sure where he is. He might just be with the family. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm here, eager to hear what Lou has to say and learn from him. And obviously the father of Crypto Mondays. I'm interested to see hear what everyone's got to say.
Great, thanks, Alex. And then maybe a few words also from my side. So obviously my company CoinRule, we make it extremely easy for users to automate their cryptocurrency trading across different markets. We have around 10,000 on the platform right now, and currently we're raising. So if you're interested, come on coinrule.io/invest and talk to us. And now I'm very excited to have Lou speaking here tonight. Lou was actually one of the first people whose work I started to read when I was just getting into the cryptocurrency space back in 2017. So this is how I actually got in touch with Crypto Monday in the first place. And of course, Lou is the founding partner of CryptoMondays, which is the largest crypto community in the world, with chapters, I think, in over 60, if not more, cities by now. He's a crypto enthusiast, investor, public speaker, thought leader in the space since 2013, and was described as Wall Street's Bitcoin expert by the Wall Street Journal. He advises Blockchain Coinvestors, a crypto fund and funds, and also Silver Castle, a leading crypto asset manager. Lou, I hope I covered all the many.
That's plenty. Thanks a lot, Oleg. I appreciate it if I can help you. I joke in my writing. I write. I don't know what I think of anything until I read what I've written about. So I write so that I can learn, and hopefully other people can learn from it as well.
Brilliant. So at the end, so after Lou's talk, we'll have a Q&A. Any questions you have, just write them in the chat, and I will read them out later. But Lou, please, the floor is all yours.
Okay, cool. Hey, I'm in New York. You can see the view that I get to stare at. And I started my company, Crypto Oracle. It started Crypto Mondays, January 2018, New York. It was the peak day of crypto market cap. And we had 300 people at Bagatelle, this super hip restaurant down in the Meatpacking District. Anyways, now almost 2.5 years later, it's been held in 57 cities. Some of them have been pop-ups like Davos, but there are 18 of them that continue to go on. And the success is decentralization. The success of what's got up in London, is Caitlin and Larry and Oleg and Devin. And the joke is when there's a new city, the last city that we added was Medellin, which just blew it out in their first meeting. And the same thing, they always send us, we say, we make them a meetup, we say good luck, we're here to help, we're decentralized. And a week or two later, we get an email saying, hey, we're gonna have our first meetup. I said, okay, if we can do ABC. And we always tell them, yeah, you can do ABC. The only thing you can't do is ask if you can do ABC, what part of decentralized did you not understand? So we really are decentralized. And I think, for me, as an experiment, it's been very educational to see how successful it's been. And it's not that there's no panacea, as I talk about in my presentation, but I think it's brought a lot of value to the ecosystem. It's brought a lot of value, I think, to people who are running successful chapters. So I think it's been a great community. And that's actually the name of my talk. So I can take the screen. Let's see. And so I'm going to blow through this. It's 6 thoughts on Web3 and community. And so basically, I've been in and around the community space deeply 17 years. I saw the crypto light on June 29th, 2017. I think it's a bunch of technologies that enable all kinds of new business processes like decentralization, which is incredibly exciting. But for me, because of my background, when I saw it, I saw how important community was and really think that it's the defining factor of decentralization. And we're very early days of getting the community right, which is just, essentially token economics and governance and consensus, how to reward community members and how do we govern ourselves. And it sounds easy, but turns out really complicated to do, just via software. So early days, but obviously world-changing stuff. And when I think about, I liken it to, the second industrial revolution was driven by electricity. And when electricity was discovered, for like 20 years, all there was, everybody had their own little power plant. And it took a long time before a big power plant was built that everybody could plug into. And to some degree, that's where we are now in crypto. Is I think community is powering the decentralized revolution. We're in the early days. And to some degree, like my long-term view of CryptoMondays would be awesome if it was that thing that people could plug into, communities could plug into to give all the value they need. It would be a whole bunch of different apps on top that people built, but to drive community. That's my vision eventually, looking forward to put it into a DAO. But right now it's largely just a bunch of decentralized entities, and it's great for me because, I get to hang out with really cool people. And I'm very involved in other communities like DAO Fest, which puts on DAO events around the world. And real quick, what is a community? It's a group of people with a common interest and agreed upon governance system. It's really simple. But for me, like the amazing things about communities are when they work, a functional community, everybody gets more out of it than they put in, which is really kind of magical. And so now, the value that the members get, that's, we call that token economics. And it could be, cash, Bitcoin, Bitcoin's cash light, but there are a lot of non-cash things like status or NFTs, right? That I think are going to be, massive parts, if not by wide margin, the dominant part. And in fact, the lines between cash and Bitcoin and things that we think of now, like status, is how do you put a value on that? I think increasingly we will. That's probably a long time off. But the bigger idea is that non-cash incentives are major ways to incentivize communities. And if you think about how big a community can become, I really believe that in large part, it's how much value can you give them? What's the delta between what it costs you to produce the value and how much the community members value whatever it is that they're getting out of the community? And the bigger that delta, the bigger the community can become, which is effectively, that's, that should be lesson number 2. I forget where we are, but in any case, and that's why the biggest communities, in my view, are religions. Faith doesn't cost anything to produce, and people value it at a lot. And so faith, I added to the bottom. And I mean, in some ways, as I've spent a lot of time trying to communicate Bitcoin to people, I'm just, now I really come down to, hey, there's going to be a flood of currency out there, and Bitcoin is our art. Don't need to understand it. You just need to believe in that and really have faith. And I think that is a lot. If we're ever going to get over the chasm of Bitcoin, I think faith could be one way. I followed Facebook for a long time, and and after driving my own communities as well, and I wrote the first Wall Street style report on Facebook in 2010 because I had to, and I was a bull for 8 years until their engagement went down. This is a Woody Allen, Annie Hall film where they're breaking up after a several-year relationship. And, she looks to him and says, "I think the relationship is over." And he looks at her and says, "Yeah, relationships are like sharks. They have to keep on moving forward, or they die. And what we have here is a dead shark." And in some ways, companies have to keep engagement growing, communities have to keep engagement growing, or they're, or they're dying. And so for the first time, Facebook's engagement went down. And that's really when I think about communities and how the main metric for the vitality of the community's engagement. I don't care how many members somebody has in their Telegram group, how many engaged members do they have, and what's the trajectory of the engagement. I think there's a lot of value from communities working together, 2 communities, 5 communities, 50 communities that can have shared values. You know, and at a high level, you know, before, you know, I said I saw the crypto light in June 2017. Just a couple months before, I'd written a piece that I called Founded about Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, and my belief about how they're getting an increasing share of all of the value in technology, and this is going to continue, you know, for the foreseeable future. And the implications, even if they're not bad guys, but the implication of these monopoly things are really negative. You know, I actually tried to raise a fund that just would invest in those 5 companies, and it's like illegal to do that largely. It's crazy, but in any case, anyways, two weeks after I did that, well, as part of the piece that I wrote, the only thing that gives me confidence is there's nothing constant but change. You know, there once a time where IBM ruled, and then Microsoft rules, and then, you know, Apple ruled. This is the percentage of market cap of the top 100 tech companies. So there's nothing constant but change. But, you know, to my belief, we look at crypto and the whole opportunity, Occam's razor. Oleg, do you know what Occam's razor is? What is it?
The easiest solution basically is the one that
yes, exactly. So the easiest solution to who's going to capture all the value from crypto and these amazing technologies is family, right? They've captured all the value. Why is it that we're going to capture the value from it and control this? Well, I think the thing that we have that they don't have is community. And if we can figure it out and get it right, you know, then maybe we can get some of the value and control it, as opposed to Web 2.0, which is not ending well or not going well for us for the most part. And I get asked a lot, you know, when I talk about community, well, what about the vitriol and, you know, Craig Wright and the ICO scams, and I get that, and I hear all of that, and I'm obviously not for any of that. But this is a revolution, and revolutions are messy, and you can let yourself get distracted with all that bullshit, you know, and that's fine. And the nice thing is, everybody can bring what they bring and do what they do if they're here to help. That's great. You know, what obviously excites people in a community the most to get is cash. So when it looks like there's a lot of cash to be made and being a part of our community, we'll get a lot of people who come here for the cash, and I welcome them with open arms, with the knowledge that when the cash no longer becomes easy, they're going to leave, because that's why they came. So happy to have them helping while they're here. And by the way, hodling is helping. Anyways, I think that's the that's the formal part of the meetup.
Thank you.
By the way, so right now, so this is, you know, right now I, you know, I tend to spend my time on, you know, stuff that's going up and to the right. The first thing I saw was speculation in Asia. I was in Asia 4 times last year, super exciting sector. The next thing I saw was DeFi, and spent a lot of time in that. And right now, by a wide margin, in my view, the most exciting thing going on in crypto are stable coins. It's you know, part of the massive challenge of Bitcoin and everything else is the on-ramp. Stable coins, you know, I think are going to be the first things to get that helps us build those on-ramps.
Yeah, maybe we can go a little bit into that. I have a few actually questions on that point, but maybe first let's get to the questions that we got already in the chat. The first one is from Anthony Parker, who thinks he spotted a Hedera Hashgraph t-shirt on you.
Oh, yes.
I think some would say
yes,
that...
Hello, future. So look, as I said, I look up at things that are going up and to the right. I'm not a technologist myself, although I think I understand the technology far more than most VCs who are not technologists. But I'm not going to, my edge is not the technology that I know. So again, I tend to, I joke, I have one business orthodoxy, and my one business orthodoxy is to not have any business orthodoxies. So, you know, I just want to, you know, be able to see as much as I can see. When you have an orthodoxy, you shut parts of the world off. And so, yeah, so I'm not a maximalist. You know, Hedera is a permission blockchain. It's a DAG, super interesting company. It's actually the only investment we made at my first company, Crypto Oracle.
Interesting. And then from Anthony Parker, his question continues. What's your take on how we move from centralization to decentralization?
The only way I know how to do it is just to do it. Yeah, and there are going to be a lot of plane crashes, right? This is, by the way, this is not about a panacea, right? This is just, there's a system that I think a lot of us on this call think is pretty fucking broken. And I think it's so broken, it's irreparable. So the idea of spending any time trying to repair that. So I'm more, even though, as I said, I think this is a long shot. I think the only way to learn is by doing. So I'm just trying to get as many people, doing as many things and embracing those things. Like I'm a huge fan of Amin Soleimani, who basically, in the DAO world, he created the Moloch DAO, which, was kind of the first DAO that started, to get adoption and use as kind of a format because it was drop dead simple. So we just need to go out and do and learn, and that's the only way we're going to get better. The token economics, which I've spent a lot of time on, like the smartest guy I've ever met in token economics is this guy Tom Bollock, who worked for Zynga and was running token economics for Mafia Wars and all these different games. So he's actually done it, and yeah.
Then we have approximately 20 questions or so from Lavinia, but I'm joking. I'm gonna start with like the first few. The first one is, have you monetized your community? If yes, how?
Well, the first campaign I ran was the community called Bolt. We had about 23 million kids, and we're double-digit revenue. So I've understood how to and the way that we actually got that community to engage. We couldn't pay them enough money to actually interact with the advertising, because the advertiser only pay us so much, and it wasn't enough. We can make money, and but what we eventually found out was we get a couple million kids to do anything for a badge that's rolled around their profile, conferring status and community. Because we told them, hey, the advertiser wants help. This is helpful to both. It's good for the advertiser to win for everybody.
You mentioned the book. I think Lavinia just mentioned. You mentioned the book called Pull. Did you?
Sorry.
Did you just mention a book? I might have misunderstood her point here, because she just wrote a book. By who is it?
I'm not sure if I mentioned a book. I
think I might have misunderstood her. So she's saying, how would you recommend someone who runs a crypto blockchain community to monetize it?
That's a great question. I've put in some modest effort in Crypto Mondays, and when Crypto Oracle, my company, had a staff, we were able to monetize it on an hourly basis. I'm not quite sure how much money we made. But look, I mean, the challenge is, we're in an industry that's kind of, while there's immense opportunity, certainly in the United States, it's hard for most people even to get a full-time paying job in the industry. So, consensus, go down, take a look at the people who are advertising at consensus. It's just, I'm sure it's a small number compared to the people who were advertising there a year ago and 2 years ago. So I think it's a challenge, unfortunately, at the moment. So you've just got to be, those are the guys with money, and then, how can you be creative?
Interesting. So now we have questions going towards the stablecoin topic, which is of particular interest to me, actually. What is the difference in your view between a stablecoin and the central bank digital currency?
So I think the two big differences in my mind, the first is the stablecoin theoretically will have rules and be community driven. So hopefully the rules can change, and maybe you don't like it, but at least it's not a man in the middle changing the rules, solving for himself, which is what you're going to get with the CBDC. And so obviously, the CBDCs aren't coming out and being capped in any way. So, we're making the dollar digital. Having a digital dollar is going to be awesome. When, I don't know when we're going to get there. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years away. I think China will be there long before us. It turns out, hold on a minute, they're a little more functional than we are these days. The second, I think even the more important one, I mean, and by the way, there are lots of other ones, but the main ones is the programmability. I think that the stable coins that you get, I mean, they'll be first, right? So there's not going to be a digital dollar for a few years. So a few years, the only way to get a real digital dollar, a tokenized dollar, is going to be through a stable coin, and they're going to be programmable on it. So what those things are going to be, I mean, obviously, if this then that is, it's infinite. So I think it opens up, just like we've seen in DeFi, all of this tremendous innovation. And, but the problem with DeFi today is it's all this massive innovation on Bitcoin, which is $180 billion market cap, or Ethereum, which is a fraction of that. And so, and you got to take your Ethereum and lock it up to get, so that presents certain challenges, and obviously Maker's trying to address that. That has certain challenges as well, obviously. I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. But so what's the first thing that's going to scale and go up to the right? I think, oh my God, dollars, digitizing dollars, stable dollars.
So last question that I asked from Lavinia before I move to other people's questions, because it connects very well to what you just said. How do you think was central bank digital?
And look, and by the way, if I say something and anybody thinks I'm wrong, I mean, I'm here to learn. I mean, obviously this is like, such new stuff for everybody, and it's, it's really mind blowing, right? What money is going to become, just like obviously nobody was talking about Facebook or Google in '94. Yeah, I think we're going to feel that same way about money and currency and all this in 10 years. Asset.
It's actually interesting because people are writing a lot of things, so I'm not always keeping up. But actually, this new app that, what is it called, Clubhouse, that A16Z just funded, that might be a good tool for us in the future, because I think it enables this kind of discussions in a better system.
That'd be great. Yeah. Well, they're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. So yes. So how do you think central bank digital currencies are going to affect the crypto market if there is a focus and growth of stable coins? So I guess
I personally think, I mean, we really have two challenges. Well, we have one challenge. The one challenge we have is how do we get, this is about mass adoption. How do we get this to mass adoption? That is all there is. Well, I kind of feel like, so my first company was in internet video in 2000. We were the biggest streamers on the web in 2000, except for the experience sucked because the pipe sucked. So we were doing something that was awesome, that was great, that the world wanted, but the world couldn't get it. And that's exactly the way I feel now about Bitcoin. Even if the world wanted it, which by the way, the world does not yet, but more and more maybe they will. But even if they do want it, how the hell can they get it? Most of them, it's just such a struggle. And the key and this, so this is a way. What central bank digital coins are going to do is create these on-ramps, right? They're going to, it's like Libra. What is Libra going to do? It's going to bring us a massive on-ramp.
I remember reading an article from you where you also wrote that trading is one of the killer apps of cryptocurrencies at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think, right? I mean, this should be settlement, right? Why would you send dollars around between the banks if you can use these stable coins? It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's programmable. You'll be able to get all of this information, do all of this stuff that you can't do now. So it's just like the dollars, but better.
So let's move to now DeFi. We have a question from Anthony again. How soon will it take banks to realize the efficiencies of settlement and reconciliation with DeFi? And do you think it will involve experimentation or regulation?
So, I mean, it's so funny, right? We all have our sense of reality that seems like it's like gravity, but I mean, my view is again, this is a revolution. This is this thing I have up here, right? Revolutions are not being driven by the banks. So I don't really care what the banks do. The more banks, the better. That's fine. But I don't understand if we're trying to have a revolution here, why we're excited because Chase is here. Because look, Chase does not want a revolution. Okay, Chase wants to control the world, which is what they've done and what they will continue to try to do. That is what they are paid to do. And they have massive resources. So yeah, I mean, on one hand, welcome to the party, and I get it. But on the other hand, is that really what's going to help us win when Chase comes? I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm. Maybe since we are on the DeFi topic, one question. Of course, most of it is currently in the Ethereum ecosystem. there are some slow starts into doing some DeFi on Bitcoin. Do you think that in the future there will be more of that, or is it more that Bitcoin will move on to Ethereum through BTC, etc.?
I mean, again, I'm a broken record, so I'm about community. And I'm not, as I said, I'm not a technologist, so I'm not going deep in understanding the intricacies of what a lot of engineers might focus on. And if you're focused on community, then Ethereum is the winner. That's where the community is. There's nothing that begins to approach the community on Ethereum and what they're building on, and it doesn't mean stuff can't happen everywhere. And there's, but I think for something to beat Ethereum, that they're not going to need to be a little better. They're going to be massively better. So all of those people who are already hugely invested in this ecosystem get up and leave. And that could certainly happen. Nobody knows anything, but I think it looks like if they were a VC, VCs were investing, VCs would be throwing money at them.
And then we have some questions from Devon. Is Blockchain Universe with the Blockchain Center in the States also run by CryptoMondays? And how are the VR meetups going so far?
So, well, the Crypto Monday Miami, I mean, what are the things that when I talk about Crypto Mondays, well, why do people do this for free? Are you paying them? No. But it's for status in the community. And so, and by the way, I mean, it's your community. It's not my community. I mean, it's on what's on Meetup is on Meetup. So the woman who runs Miami, she's awesome. And she built up a great community. And she largely did it on Telegram. And one day, the Crypto Monday Miami Telegram group became the Bitcoin Center in Miami Telegram group, because she got a job at the Bitcoin Center, which is also the Blockchain Center, this 8-story building in Miami. And that's just a massive win for the whole community. So that's the whole idea, right? This is supposed to help you. And, she made it Crypto Mondays a thing. Crypto Mondays helped her. Massive win for everybody. Bitcoin Center, the Miami wants to be the kind of the gateway to Latin America, the blockchain gateway. And so, the city is investing. The mayor was there at the opening night. It was a huge, really fun night. Did that answer the question?
Devon?
Yes, thank you. I was just curious. I'd heard Blockchain Center before.
Oh, and the VR meetups. So the VR meetups are great. I mean, I don't know how many. Can you ask a quiz? How many people? Do you do a poll? You know how to do that? And how many people have VR rigs? It's like, my guess is if there are how many, 25 people here, whatever, 2 or 3 might have, it's pretty small. That's the challenge with them. But you can come using a PC, given the software we're using. So we're not getting huge crowds, but it is so fun. And I'm doing this, I mean, all day long, and this is awesome. I got nothing against this, but and what's weird is just by doing them, like I got asked to speak at Consensus. The very last panel was a panel on VR meetups in VR.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun.
And then we have a question from Andrew. What are your thoughts about social money? And social money, he means the ability for people with online communities to issue tokens.
Sure. I mean, I think tokenizing yourself, hard to imagine in my view, that's not going to be a thing. But the question, I mean, right now, we're kind of doing that, personal tokens light. So, they're saying, hey, yeah, you give me cash and I'll give you a promise to give you and that'll work out. I'm sure, but obviously the exciting thing is when that can become more programmable, obviously, and more, in some way verifiable. And I think we're on the way to doing that. I think that's going to be super exciting.
Brilliant. And then we have a question. Well, I'm jumping a few questions because I don't quite understand them. But there is a question from David. So please, Hamad, please explain what you mean by your question. So we'll jump instead to the question by David Moore. What about online communities and crypto?
Hey, Oleg.
Yeah.
One thing, so I've done a lot of these, and one thing that I really find makes it, that enhance it is if somebody has a question you like it, you can, open up their VR, make them a panelist, let them ask it, interact a little bit if they want to.
Sure. Yeah, that works. That works for us as well. Why don't we try this out? I'm gonna unmute David Moore. If you could please ask your question yourself.
Hi, Lou. Thanks for speaking with us. It's been really interesting so far. Just expanding on your previous answer, online communities and crypto, and you said you've been involved in this, Facebook, Google, Reddit. Did I read about Reddit having community tokens now? So there must be some massive opportunity there for the likes of Facebook to have tokens involved in what they do, but I'm not visionary enough to see how it's going to pan out. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what Facebook is looking at is a digital dollar or a digital yuan or a digital pound. I think they want to work with the governments and kind of be the digital currency provider. I think that's what they pivoted to from creating their own currency. And so I think when somebody of the scale of Facebook or any nation does that they will, just by them creating a wallet, we'll now have millions and hundreds of millions of people who will now have the on and off ramp to get everything else that we want them to get.
Thank you. They ought to be able to do more with it than that as well, shouldn't they? They should.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that's the beginning, but I'm saying I'm all for education. Education's great. This in some ways is education. So, but it turns out, that I don't think you can educate your way to mass adoption. You've got to give people something that they can see its value on its face, that they don't have to go to school to learn why it's valuable.
All right, which goes back to your opening point about value from the community and the ease of getting it, the cost of getting it. Thank you.
Okay, then we have a question from Hamad. Hamad, do you mind to unmute yourself and ask? Or Hamad?
Oh, hi. Sorry about that. Basically, I was trying to say, in small words, I was saying that, for example, a cryptocurrency wallet. So let's say, for example, if you got cryptocurrency, yes, but then you want to, at the end of the day, you want to utilize that finance, isn't it? Yes. Let's say you got Coinbase, right? That sort of thing. But there's also Virex, isn't it? And certain others. That's what my question was about.
So your question was, what about wallets such as Virex?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I think where we largely are today as an industry is, I think there are a lot of good wallet solutions, but by their nature to date, what the wallets have needed to solve for is security. And when you solve primarily for security, you now have something that ends up being very complex and scary for 99% of the people in the world. They don't want to deal with the complexity, even the dumb wallets, and so it's going to be interesting to see what the states do and how they address that, because they're going to have to solve for ease of use. But also, I think what they'll start with is they'll start with very low sums of money. That they start just giving everybody $10. So here's $10, and here's how you, and I think when they first give it out, they'll produce it with very low security, right? So if somebody breaks your wallet, takes your $10, okay, you've lost $10, but really, so what? More important thing is now you've used a digital wallet, and then they can start layering on new security that makes it incrementally more positive. People can pick, I don't know how it's going to go. But my guess is, right, they're going to solve for that, right? When Facebook rolls something out, what they're obviously really good at is ease of use.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a question from Lavinia, but she's shy, so she doesn't want to speak. But the question is, how do you feel stable coins can create more wealth equality?
Well, I mean, it seems to me just by its nature, the more freer that money can flow around, just the better that is, for the world, and the more programmable you can make it, right? So, particularly, I think philanthropy is going to be, right? If you can actually show, as the money goes, how productive it is and what the payback is from philanthropy. And, like one of the great, really the kind of the seminal innovation in the Moloch DAO, right? The thing was the introduction of the rage quit, which is, okay, give your money here, and if you don't like it, you can get your money back. And that was, so simple, but again, kind of revolutionary and became the thing. And now they'll add new widgets to that. So I kind of rambled.
Mm-hmm. And then we have one more question also from Lavinia. How do you think COVID-19 is going to affect the cryptocurrency market?
I mean, look, at a macro level, it seems to just be accelerating everything, accelerating the, things that were going to happen like VR just happening faster. And so, I think I think at the margin, it's got to be a positive. I think obviously it looks like the world's coming to an end. In some ways, Bitcoin was made for the world coming to an end. But even though the world looks like it's coming to an end, Bitcoin really hasn't moved a whole lot. So that's a little bit of a head scratcher, I think, for a lot of people. My having been around, the Bill Gross, who started the first internet incubator and was kind of my mentor. My company was the 55th company in the Idea Lab incubator when I joined in January of 2000. He did a TED talk where he did a data-driven analysis of the 200 companies and 8 unicorns on the driving factor of success in startups. And he said he thought it was the idea. That's why I called it Idea Lab. Then he after a few years realized now it's all about the management, and then he ran the numbers, and it turns out it's all about timing. And the problem is, when's timing? When is this going to go? If you believe in it, you just kind of got to stick around. And and I haven't seen anything yet. For me, the biggest negative has been that still, 11 years later plus, really Bitcoin's the only thing so far.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethereum's great, and Ethereum, I think we're doing amazing things on Ethereum, and we got such a massive community. I think you'll be able to just get better and better.
Then one question from my side, Luke, because obviously you said you're relatively agnostic in terms of the various crypto communities, and I totally agree with that. But there are also some communities which kind of stand out for being a bit more, let's say, aggressive or controversial, such as the hashtag XRP Army. I'm sure most of us here are familiar with that, but also like, let's say, Bitcoin SV. What's your view on how should the wider crypto community deal with that?
I'm in the middle of a divorce, but so I'm not necessarily sure to take relationship advice from me. But one of the things I learned is the process takes 2 people to fight. So I'm not fighting with the XRP army because I don't care about the XRP army. But you should know if you want to engage with them, this is what's going to happen. I mean, the people, so if it's a scam, I really don't know if it's a scam or it's not a scam. It seems to me though, at the margin, what I do know about the business, and by the way, I have reached out to them and said, hey, I'm an equity analyst, been on Wall Street, would love to talk to you so I could actually understand what you do. And they never responded. And I've tried on multiple occasions and met senior people there who said, oh, we'll have somebody reach out. So, whatever they're doing, whatever kind of community they're building. I don't really, spend my time. And by the way, when I was an equity analyst on Wall Street, I used to cover DirecTV and EchoStar, 2 satellite companies, which to everybody in the world, they did the same exact thing. They blasted satellites on Earth and brought television things down, and really not that differentiated. But both of them would spend, both CEOs, the CEO of DirecTV would spend half of the time bashing the first CEO and his company and telling them how that company so sucks. But we're amazing. And to those people, they didn't know the difference. And the other guy talked about how amazing his competitor was and why they were even better. And guess who performed better? So look, telling people that there are shitty things in crypto, people who want to do that, God bless them. I'm not saying anything, but for me, I really think that on the margin, most times it's probably better spent helping people succeed than tearing down people who even shouldn't succeed. Yeah.
Thanks, Lou. We have time for maybe about another 2 questions or so. So I think we have a question from Alexander. Alex, do you want to ask yourself?
Yeah, sure. So it was just I was interested when you mentioned about sort of Bitcoin versus Ethereum, and I know that if you're talking about communities as well, this is a massive sort of division. I wanted to ask, if you could hold only one asset for the next 10 years, Bitcoin or Ethereum, what would you choose? What sort of side of the fence would you be on?
Yeah, as an
Sorry to put you in the corner.
I actually understand what I understand what Bitcoin is from. I think of Bitcoin as being a store of value, so I can compare it to gold and put it into some kind of context for me. Ethereum is it's much more challenging because there's really no viable model for understanding the value of a utility token. And people say, well, the more demand, yes, on the other hand, that's velocity, and velocity tends to decrease the value. That's like the seminal equation of valuing currency, is velocity makes it less valuable. So the main thing that everybody says is actually going to drive the value is actually the main thing that decreases the value, according to math. But again, I have bet in communities. So actually, one of my investments was Meetup, and I got to invest in Meetup in a secondary transaction. I was able to get involved in a lot of good companies by being very active in getting secondary shares, with the approval from the companies. And when I got involved with Meetup, they had a community that was going like that, but they had very little monetization of the community. And when I talked to other VCs, they were all like, "Oh, it's a philanthropic thing," because the CEO had made a lot of money already. He had actually started it to help people get together in the wake of 9/11, and he had not yet, even though he was 10 years old, been running it like a business. But I got involved because the community was going like that, and my belief that when your community is going like that, good things happen, and it turned out great.
Brilliant. So I think we are almost at the end. Lou, there were also a few questions about people who basically were asking how they could find you, or where should they go to find your writings. Do you want?
Well, the good thing is you want to give your kids unusual names so they can be the only one out there. So it's LOUKERNER everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, Medium is where I do my blogging. Gmail.
Brilliant. Lou, thank you so much. I think, is there anyone else, any more questions? I don't think so. Devin, Larry, any last words? Otherwise, I think we can close things up slowly.
Yeah, from my side, I just dropped in a link to our Telegram channel there. If you want to join, keep asking your questions in the channel. We can keep a discussion going there. But other than that, that's it from my side. Thank you so much, Lou, for your presentation today and for answering all the questions we had. And to everyone for joining as well.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.